Hello there and welcome to Black Jackal Gaming. Today we're going to take a look at the Bladeguard Veterans, which is one of the Primaris melee units. They're a solid melee option into light and medium infantry. They've got quite a flexible ability, which is nice. They've had a recent points drop, which makes them a little bit more viable. And they've got a nice array of leaders that can join them to give them buffs. Let's take a look at them. Looking at the datasheet, they come in at 80 points or 160 points for a 3 or 6 man unit. Their movement 6, toughness 4, 3 up save, 4 up invulnerable save, 3 wounds, leadership 6, and objective control 1. For the range profile, they come in at ballistic skill 3, and they're only equipped with the heavy bolt pistol, which has the pistol keyword allowing you to shoot it when in engagement range. This has an 18-inch range, 1 attack, strength 4, minus 1 AP, 1 damage. Now the sergeant can change his heavy bolt pistol for 1 or 2 options, the first being the Neofolkite pistol, which comes with the devastating wounds keyword as well as the pistol keyword. So any wounds that go through on a critical wound will bypass your opponent's save throw. This is 12-inch range, 1 shot, strength 5, 0 AP and 2 damage. Or you can take the plasma pistol, which comes with hazardous if you decide to overcharge it, and pistol. If you do decide hazardous, you do need to take a hazardous check, and on a roll of 1, the model will die. So if you choose the standard profile, it's 12-inch range, 1 attack, strength 7, minus 2 AP, 1 damage. If you want to upgrade this to supercharged, it's again 12 inches, 1 attack, and then it's upgraded to strength 8, minus 3 AP, and 2 damage. So quite a nice profile. Looking at the melee option, the weapon skill 3+, and they only have one option, being the mastercrafted power weapon. No keywords attached to this, which is a bit disappointing. It comes in at 4 attacks, strength 5, minus 2 AP, and 2 damage. Taking a look at the ability, it's just called the Bladeguard ability. At the start of the fight phase, you can select one of the following abilities to apply to the models in this unit until the end of the phase. So your first option is Sword to the Chapter. Each time the model in this unit makes a melee attack, you can reroll a hit roll of 1. So this is quite nice. You can use this to operate without Alpha Moment, because instead of getting the 4 rerolls, you're getting the reroll of 1. So you are hitting on 3s. So it's giving you quite a nice percentage of opportunity to push those hits through onto wounds. Or you can decide to take Shield to the Chapter. Each time an invulnerable saving throw is made for this model, you get to reroll a saving throw of 1. So this is quite a nice durability spike to have, especially if you're going to go second. It allows you to keep these models around a little bit longer. It is a shame that this ability can't activate for ranged attacks as well, because that would make it a really strong ability for them to have. Taking a look at what leaders can join them. First we have the Bladeguard Ancient. When he's leading the unit, they get +1 OC for every model in the unit. And once per battle, each member of the unit can get +1 to the attack, which is really nice to have. Then you've got the Captain. His main ability is to reduce the CP for a stratagem. So anytime you want to use a stratagem on this unit, it's going to cost you -1 CP. Then we have the Lieutenant. He gives you the lethal hits. This is for your ranged and melee attacks, so any critical hits will automatically wound the opponent. As well as this, you have the ability to fall back and still be able to shoot and charge. So this means that you're going to always be able to be active in the shooting and melee phase. Then we have the Chaplain. He gives the +1 to wound and melee, and he does have the once a game to remove battle shot from a unit. Finally, we have the Justiciar. He has a fight first ability, which is really nice. This means that if you are charged, you go into the fight first category and you get to choose first as the defending player. So this allows this unit to always be able to take that first hit. As well as this is the Justiciar kills a character model. He gets +1 attack for the rest of the game. So depending on how many characters you kill, which probably won't be that many to be fair, he will get the +1 to attack. He does have the precision keyword as well, so he can target characters. Looking at the detachments that you're going to get the best out of the unit. First we've got the Gladius Strike Force. Their detachment rule, the one that you're going to be leaning into, is the Doctrine for Assault, which allows you to advance and charge. Within this you have the Honor the Chapter Stratagem. This gives you Lance, which is that +1 to wound, as well as +1 AP when in Assault Doctrine. This is really nice. It's going to move you on to -3 AP on those power weapons, which is a good AP to have, and you're going to get that +1 to wound. This is quite nice if you're not going to the Oath to Moment target, because you are going to be able to get that reroll of 1s to hit if you choose that ability, and you've got that +1 to wound anyway. Then we have the Ample Siege Force. This gives you the gains the heavy keyword on your pistols, which isn't the most useful, but can come in handy sometimes, especially for your plasma pistol. They have a really nice enhancement called the Stoic Defender. When within range of an objective marker, the unit gets Feel No Pain 6+. As well as this, if you are battle shocked, it only halves the OC of the models and you round up, so they will always remain on 0 OC, unless there is an ability that gives them a minus to their OC. Then they've got a stratagem called Not One Backward Step. This doubles the OC for models in the unit, but they must remain stationary, so this allows you to make sure you are definitely holding on to objectives. Next we have the Ironstorm Spearhead. The detachment rule allows you to reroll a hit or wound roll. You don't really need to reroll the damage roll because you don't have any variable damage weapons. They've got a stratagem which is really nice called Mercy's Weakness. When you're targeting a unit that's below starting strength, you gain sustained hits 1. Now this is for both melee and your ranged weapons, so you will be targeting your melee weapons for this. To get the sustained hits on all those mastercrafted pile swords attacks would be quite nice. Next we have the Firestorm Assault Force. This gives you the assault keyword on your pistols, so you can advance and still shoot. As well as this, you get +1 strength when within 12 inches, which is really nice, especially if you're supercharging your plasma pistol, which becomes a little bit more potent if you are being led by a character that has a plasma pistol as well, so you'll have 2 within the unit. They've got a really nice stratagem called Crucible of Battle. This gives you +1 to wound when targeting the closest enemy unit. This is for shooting and melee. So again, this is another way to get that +1 to wound without having to use Alpha Moment. They've got a stratagem called Rapid Embarkation. This allows you to embark in a transport at the end of the fight phase when you're wholly within 6 inches. So this allows you to charge an opponent, potentially wipe them out, and then get back into the safety of a transport to keep them alive for the next turn. And finally, we have Stormlance Task Force. This gives you the ability to advance and fall back and still be able to charge. There's an enhancement called Portent of Wisdom. This allows you to reroll that advanced roll, meaning that you're going to have a higher probability of making sure you get into combat. Also has a nice stratagem called Windswift Evasion. After your opponent ends a normal advance or fallback move within 9 inches, you can make a normal move up to 6 inches. So if you're going to be within range of something like melter guns, which are going to do a lot of damage, if they bypass your invulnerable save and they only have that short range, you can move out of range of their range attacks. It also gives you the ability to move out the range of charges. If you've got a melee unit that's going to come in and absolutely mince you, you don't really want to stand there and try and take it. If you can get out of the way, it's even better. Now, what tactical play can you use to get the best out of the unit? Well, for the points, they really hit a really interesting durability ratio. Now that they're only down to 80 points for 3 models, they are 3 wounds apiece, 3 up, 4 up save. So it puts them in the position where they're quite hard to chew through for their points ratio. You have to really allocate a lot of either ranged or melee attacks into them to make sure you're wiping them out, especially if there's a 6-man unit. With the invulnerable save, it can really spike against the high AP damage weapons. Anything over AP 1 is not really going to have more of an effect. You do have the option of Armor of Contempt, which will reduce the incoming AP by 1, and if you uncover, you're going to get that +1 to your save if it's AP 1 or higher. So you do have the ability to really prevent these high AP guns, such as your melters and your last cannons that are going to be on the likes of -4, really having a massive impact. And with you having that 4-up save, you can really spike against these. A couple of 4-up saves against weapons that are 1 or 2 shots can really put a dampener on what your opponent can do. And this makes them consider, do they have to try and force through with weight of number of attacks? So it might be just 0 AP or AP 1 attacks coming through, but it's a lot of saves you've got to make. And just to wear you down that way, give you a battle of attrition essentially. Or do they send in melee options, which might be a little bit more effective against you? I really like the idea of having the Judicia. It's not really a model that's seen much play the last 2 editions, and I always think they get interesting rules, but there's always just a little flaw behind them. If they were able to be taken at the same time as a captain, like the lieutenants can, that would be really interesting. And because they are meant to be like kind of an aspirant chaplain, maybe they should be able to take in alongside the chaplain as well. That would make them a little bit more interesting. But if you do decide to take one, especially combined with the Stoic Defender for the Feel No Pain 6+, if you've got a 6-man unit, you're essentially on 18 wounds, you're a 3-up, 4-up save, you got a Feel No Pain 6+ if you're on the objective. You're going to have your OC only half, so you're going to remain on your full OC account for that, and you're going to always fight first, so it's going to make you very difficult to remove from an objective. It's going to make your opponent really think whether they can dedicate firepower towards you. And if they send in a melee option, you're going to be able to fight first. And are you going to wipe it out? Are you going to be able to trade quite well with this unit? So it makes them a really nice option to place them on the central objective, especially if you've got a lieutenant with combi weapon in there and you're using that as your primary objective, so you get to reroll wound rolls of 1, which is really nice. You've then got your 3 wounds, your toughness 4, 4-up save, funeral pain 6+ from Stoke Defender. You get the fight first from the Judicia. So you've got this really durable unit that's going to be able to punch first. It's going to be difficult to shoot off. And you're not going to be able to do many OC shenanigans, any battle shock abilities or stratagems to try and knock them off the objective, because they are only going to halve their OC. So it makes them a really interesting and difficult unit to move, especially if you've got the objective within cover as well. And missions come up every now and then, and secondaries that you get additional points for taking the center and stopping your opponent from being on the center. So these can be a real point scoring unit for you and difficult for your opponent to shift. If you do have them in the Gladius detachment and you've got the advance and charge from the Assault Doctrine, and the Honor the chapter for the +1 AP and +1 to wound, it really does ramp up their damage output. If you choose the option to have the rerolls of 1 in melee, it means you don't need to rely on Oath of the Moment, because you're hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s, and then you've got +1 to wounds as well. So you really can dedicate Oath of the Moment to a different target, potentially one that you're going to be using ranged attacks into to guarantee that you're going to kill that unit. And then for the Bladeguard Veterans, they've basically got their own type of Oath of the Moment using this combination. And if you are using Gilliman as well, it essentially means you've got 2 full Oaths a moment to use, as well as having the Bladeguard Veterans for like a little baby option to go along with it, where they're not getting the full oath out of it, but they are getting a really good ramped up profile. There's also quite an interesting, albeit quite pricey option if you were to maybe include them in the Land Raider. Because they do have the assault ramp, you can leave the Land Raider if it's made a normal move and still charge. This is going to be really good if you can use the Land Raider, because it's got some quite good firepower to punch a gap in your opponent's defensive line. And then you can throw your Bladeguard Veterans in, especially if it's a 6-man unit. Even better if it's got the Judicia, so you're going to fight first. You can throw them into the gap, type multiple units, potentially target a character and take it out, especially if it's a key character. And if you get to do a fair bit of damage, well, next turn, they're going to have to pull out, which is going to prevent these units from being able to shoot because they've fallen back, unless you've got the ability to do so. And you are going to fight first as well. So anything that it leaves in combat with you, you're going to potentially be able to kill. So in conclusion, they've got quite a decent durability profile for the points cost, being 80 points per 3. The melee output it's fair enough into your T3 bodies. It's going to do quite well into them, because you are hit on 3s, wound on 3s. You potentially got that reroll on 1s to hit, or if you're not using that and it's your Oath of the Moment target, you get +1 to wound, and there's other ways to get that +1 to wound as well. So you're going to be on your 2s to wound for your T3 bodies. And if you are giving them the right buffs, like I just said, with the +1 to wound, or you get the additional AP, they go really well into Space Marines, because being -3 AP and 2 damage, you are going to tear through Space Marines quite well. Now, if you aren't having any buffs in there, you are going to struggle a little bit more into Space Marines, because they are going to make a couple of more saves, because you're only giving them -2, and if they're using Armor Contempt, then they're on 4s. And for every failed save, you do kill one, but they're going to have a 50% pass rate as well. And you probably don't have enough attacks coming in unbuffed to take out a 5-man Space Marine unit, unless you spike or they roll slightly below average. So they're not quite an elite melee unit for the damage output. They don't have any options to upgrade from the power swords. A lot of melee units in other armies, their weapons are similar to power swords and they do a fair bit of work, but it's the sergeant that's leading them that gets the upgraded weapon that tends to do a lot more damage. Now, if you could take a thunder hammer on him instead, or a power fist, you are going to really ramp these up, so they're going to go into those medium armor options really well. And if you do have a thunder hammer with the devastating wounds, you can target some harder opponents as well, especially when you've got that +1 to wound, so your power swords can still do damage. So all in all, the datasheet isn't probably good enough to lean into if you want to focus your army on them. You could take 18 of them, which is a bit pricey, but they're not going to have the amount of output out of them that you want them to have. You don't really need them to tie down that many objectives because it is a movement-based game, so you really want to have one static objective and be able to be a bit more flexible with the other objectives and move around and take the ones you need and hold the ones that you need without losing too many units of your army or too many points. You only want to focus on 1 or 2 units in the army, maybe 1 6-man or 2 3-man, or even just 1 3-man, and take it from there. Like the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Take it easy, I'll see you next time.